So, through general consensus,
So before we begin the meeting, we need to choose a temporary chair until our chair comes, who is on her way.
I nominate you to be our temporary chair.
Okay,
Do I have a second? Thank you.
all right, so moved.
been properly moved in second that Christina Ugo is the temporary chair until our permanent one gets here. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay,
The ayes have it.
great. Welcome to the Oregon City Arts Commission. We are going to call this meeting to order. I guess we're going to do the roll call first.
We'll do roll call. Commissioner Andrews?
On our way.
On her way. Oh, that's right. Commissioner Andrus? She is not here. Commissioner Burig is not here. Commissioner Carlson?
Emma?
Timma? That's not here. Commissioner Jones?
Selena? Oh, yeah, I was going to say.
Commissioner Lugo?
Present.
Commissioner Lanton? Or Planton, sorry.
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Here.
Commissioner Woodward?
Here.
You have
So,
a quorum.
We have a quorum. It is St. Patrick's Day, so probably there's some arts commissioners out having festivities. So now we'll call for an adoption of the agenda. Are there any motions to change the agenda or make additions to the agenda, or is anybody prepared to accept the agenda as it's presented?
I'll motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Do we need a second? I'll second. Okay.
Okay, so all in favor of adopting the agenda as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Commissioner Jones has raised her hand.
Oh, great. And the
That
ayes,
was not, yes, that was to say aye.
and the ayes have it, so the agenda will be adopted. And now we move on to public comment. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city, not listed as an item on the agenda. Is there anyone here or online who would like to make a public comment?
There's no one.
Okay, and seeing none, we'll move on to approval of the minutes. So first we have the Arts Commission retreat notes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes from the retreat? Were there any corrections or additions or changes? The first one? Okay. I think we'll try to can we approve them all at once? Okay. So then the second one was minutes from our February meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the February meeting? Great. And were there any additions or changes that were needed to be made to that? Okay, great. So would someone please move for approval of the both the Arts Commission retreat notes minutes and the minutes from our February 17th meeting?
I move to approve.
And I'll second.
Great. So all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
And Commissioner Jones raised her hand as well.
Great. Anyone opposed? And hearing none, the Arts Retreat Commission minutes and the minutes from our February 17th meeting are approved. And so now we'll move on to presentations. We have a presentation on the Molalla Avenue Decorative Cross-Street Banner Art Selection.
All right, good evening. I'm Dana Webb, City Engineer for the City of Oregon City and overseeing the Molalla Avenue Streetscape Project. So last month I kind of gave you an update on where we were at related to selection of art. And so tonight in your packet, you'll see 4 photos. So the first photo shows the existing brackets that were installed by the artist on the cross street banner poles. They're located approximately 40 inches apart. And that was his best guess at how to attach the art that was not yet selected. So that's what the mounting brackets look like. And then he has provided 3 options of art that fall within the art budget in the contract that we have with him. So the art budget is $2,800. And I apologize, these pictures are a little grainy because I kind of zoomed in so that we could see them. And so each of these are options that he can create within that $2,800 budget. He is not here tonight because we've already had him attend 2 meetings to get to these 3 options. And as a kind of a courtesy to not utilize more of his time that I can't compensate him for, we've provided these images that he's created and that all fall within this the art budget. And so tonight is really just an opportunity for the Arts Commission to identify which art component they would like to move forward with for the artist Ben Dye to create and to install on the Cross Street banner poles. And when I spoke with him, you know, he provided some feedback. And the reason the mounting brackets are kind of on that outside edge is that in the previous meetings with the group that was selected to kind of help identify the art element, felt that art kind of on the outer edge, so over the sidewalk, that was flat would be the best option for an art piece like this along a roadway. And then this, the dollar amount really is kind of allows for that one color powder coating. So although he did provide the option C, which is a waterfall, it is a much smaller art piece. And so really as you're driving, you know, down Molalla Avenue, looking kind of over the sidewalk, it'll be a little harder to see. So again, I tried to kind of zoom in on the waterfall one so you could see that.
Can we advance the slides?
I'd like to pause for just a minute to make note that I relinquished temporary chair to Commissioner Trace, who's here now.
Thank you. Sorry about that, everybody. My apologies.
So up on the screen now is option A. The artist has not created names, so I selected these names, and I am not an artist. So this one is elevator. It's intended to look like our city elevator. Option B is I named abstract, not an artist, but this is more of a geometric type design and is visually the largest art option. And then option C is that waterfall option, which is smaller and 3-dimensional.
So how would you like us to go forward with this choice?
So basically, there's already been much planning done prior to this, prior to the actual creation of the Art Commission. So we basically are going to need to decide by vote which one of the 3 that is the most optimal for you as commissioners. And
I think I was more meaning, are we setting aside any future processes for evaluating a public art in the moment because we don't have them in place, and just going by what we as commissioners feel would be the best choice of these 3?
yeah, that does.
No, so,
Carrie will address that.
so in this particular instance, you're being asked to choose for the city
Right, I got
what
that.
you think is the best for the city, not based on criteria. You're not reviewing an application
Right.
against standards.
Right, I'm just trying to decide what are we evaluating these, like what, I mean, I know which one I like, but I'm asking if there's criteria that I should be using to choose between the 3 that are left.
I don't, the
Okay.
answer is
It's
no.
probably just, we were chosen to be on the Arts Commission because we have experience as artists, so maybe we're just supposed to use
But
artist.
just, like I said, my experience as an artist, what I feel will be the best choice for the city.
So Commissioner Wilson, what is your favorite?
Sure, can you put up, yes. That one. I feel that this is the strongest piece for several reasons. One, I find the graphic of
Wait,
the
which
element.
is it? I can't see it.
Oh,
It is the one that has the tumbling moons.
I think,
That's the artsy name.
yeah, unfortunately, that's just bled in, so pardon me
No,
while I try to.
I have the images on mine. I just didn't know which. I have the document open, so
Thank you.
I can see the images. I couldn't see what she was referring to.
We will work on getting that taken care of in the future.
Okay, so I like option B, abstract, the most of the three, because I find the elevator piece to be graphically a little bit simple and kind of uninteresting, I guess. And I feel like it doesn't really reflect or contribute anything visually to the already very kind of squareness of the pole itself, and to just kind of restate the elevator that is already such a dominant feature seems a bit unnecessary and redundant. Whereas this piece with the what I'm calling Cascading Moons, I find to be a lot more intriguing, and I would take the moment to stop and look at it, and it has more visual interest. I think the waterfall piece is interesting, but the size of it, I think, would just make it disappear. And I think knowing Bendai and his work, I think he would provide us with the best piece that we would be most happy with if it was the option B. I think there's just not enough to the waterfall one based on the budget that he's, limited to, that we wouldn't get robust enough of a piece that would stand out.
I believe we probably will then do a roll call vote on which option you would prefer. Is that, no?
Oh, before you
Oh.
do, yeah, let's just, I'm sorry.
No,
I just
no,
like
you're
to make
doing
sure
fine.
that we've had enough conversation. But thank you.
I have some thoughts too, but are we taking turns or, sorry, it's hard. It's just hard for me to see.
Please, go ahead.
I agree with Tammy Jo. I prefer option B as well. I think that the other two are very hard for me to recognize. It took me, even while I'm sitting here with the document in front of me, the waterfall, especially at that scale, doesn't really make sense to me. And I think it would be really hard for people to understand what it was. And the elevator, I also think it's difficult to recognize unless you already really know about the elevator. And also to Tammy Jo's point, I don't think it's as visually interesting as the moon pattern. So I would vote for option B.
Sure. I mean, I'm happy to go along with whatever this commission chooses. I'm kind of torn between, I mean, I think that all three images are really interesting. The waterfall with the basalt is actually kind of interesting, because it's kind of reminding us of what Oregon City really is, which is, it's a place where, the waterfall reminds me of that this is where for thousands of years people fished and they gathered to celebrate. The elevator's nice because it's recognizable. It says Oregon City, and there's like only 4 places in the world that have a public elevator like that, so that's kind of neat. But visually, I do agree that crescent moons are really beautiful. So I'd be happy with any of those choices, but yeah, I think they're all interesting.
I actually like the elevator the best. I think it kind of symbolizes Oregon City. But someone just brought up that not everybody's going to know that. If there's people that don't live in Oregon City, they may not even recognize what is that. We all know it because we know that the observatory on the top is what everybody in Oregon City knows. So I would be happy with either, I don't really like the waterfall. I think it's too small and it gets too hidden. So my second choice would be the moons, just because it adds a little bit more and it's a little bit larger, and it'll catch the eye. So elevator first, and then if the majority votes on the moons, I'm good.
Does anybody really like the waterfall?
I like it, but I don't think the sizing, I don't think for this project, it really is going to work compared to the others, so.
Can we eliminate that one as a choice?
Yes.
Yes. Well, there we go. We're one step closer.
I guess I'll go next. I do like the elevator. It is, like everyone has said, it is an iconic symbol for Oregon City. But I think thinking long-term, if, say, we ever did another project where we would pick, have to pick more artwork for these banner posts, the abstract one does give us the most flexibility in selecting what, artwork we want to put on there next. We're kind of being brought in at the tail end of this one, but I would like to give ourselves a little more room maybe with the next one. So I think that's the reason I'm mainly going with the crescent moon.
Yeah, I am also torn. I think I preferred initially the elevator just because of that iconic nature of the symbol, and I like that it's a little weird and like, could it be a spaceship? I don't know, like if I saw that, I'd be like, what the heck is that if I didn't live here? But I also think I would feel the same way about the moons. So maybe they're tapping into a place of curiosity, which I think is an important element to public art, is something that leads you in. So I'm happy with either choice.
And can I ask one question? The brackets on the image that we have on the front and where this looks like it's being placed, it looks like it's going to change a little bit how the artwork looks in the end. Is that correct? Or are these brackets where they are now taken into consideration with the design he's provided?
We had to select a location to put the brackets, and that was selected before, I'm not 100% sure, but if the selection was the Cascading Moons, I suspect he would adjust it to know that.
Okay, that's just one thing that I thought about is all of them. I mean, the elevator was on top, the abstract moons seemed to be closer together, connected, and the waterfall was almost kind of embedded in it. So each one's going to be a little bit different, but yeah, that's fine.
I have a question too. I'm assuming that the artist has already thought of this, but I mean, when I look at the very first image, the one that was just up a minute ago, it looks like there's electric lines kind of
Those are the banner lines that keep the banner aligned when there's a banner up there.
Right, no, I see those, but if you look over here to the right.
Power lines.
Yeah, there's power lines. Are those just, is that just a coincidence of the picture? Or are the power lines,
Is it the angle?
I think it's the angle.
The angle might make them look closer.
Yeah,
And
but
I
I
go
can
back and
definitely.
forth past this almost every day, and it does. It looks like power lines when you first look at it, and then you realize, no, that's where the banner is going to be fastened. And that's a good thing to keep in mind too, is that it won't only be this piece of artwork, but there'll be a banner that will run across it. That's what people are going to look like at. So it's just the kind of little decoration on either side.
I do have one additional question. On the elevator and the moon, the support structure is different colors, and you had talked about powder coating. So I'm just wondering if the colors on these images are representative of the colors of the final piece. Like, is the elevator one going to be gray and a darker gray with a bright green pole, or is that just the graphics provided?
The poles are already black and will stay black.
Okay.
This is where I'm not an artist. you know, this one appears to be more like metal looking and maybe not even powder coated. And I believe some of Ben's artwork is that style. So I don't know that I have a good answer, but I guess if there's thoughts, like if you're looking for color or you're looking for metal color, I can convey that back to him.
I was more concerned about just the kind of flat grayness of the elevator itself. In this, you know, bright blue sky environment with what will probably be very colorful banners, and then a black pole. Like, is it just gonna feel like a weird geometric extension of the pole? And I mean, I'm just throwing that out there for us to.
That's a good question.
Because here it stands out because the pole is green. But if the pole is close to the same color, then it would just be a continuation. And if the elevator was some weird color, then it wouldn't look like the elevator anymore.
I'm also just, I hate to come back to this question again about the power lines, but I'm kind of curious. So Commissioner Trace, you've driven by this and maybe some of you have too. I'm just wondering, like, if you're actually driving, how does the placement of the, how does the placement of the extension feel? Like, if you put something to the side of it and there's these power lines in the way, like, are you gonna see it or do you just kind of see the power lines? As opposed to if you put something on top of it, I'm just kind of wondering, like, if you're driving by at like 30 miles an hour, what are you gonna see?
So the poles that are out there are placed in what we refer to as the furnishing zone. So behind the curb, there's that, you know, sometimes it's a planter strip in the neighborhood. On Molalla, it's a 10-foot wide sidewalk, but so the base of this pole is in that furnishing zone. And then the clear space for the sidewalk is behind that, and that's a 6-foot sidewalk, I think, in that location. And so those power poles are behind that 6-foot sidewalk. So they are at least 6 feet from where the mounting brackets are.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, if you're driving and you're looking, what are you gonna see? Like, are you gonna see power lines and some sort of visual stuff that you're not gonna notice, or?
I mean, there's also the tree there. I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of other visual.
And you'll have a banner. That's what
And a
people are
banner.
gonna look
Hopefully
at.
they see the
You'll
banner. That's a good point.
Banner.
Hopefully
Huge banner.
they see the banner and then the rest is just frosting on the cake.
But I'm just, I guess I'm trying to get at a point. I'm just trying, so my thought is just that if you put something on top of it, and there's no, I mean, I don't know if the artist could put the Cascading Moons on top, but I kind of feel like the more I look at this and the more I think about what we're looking at, that whatever's on top of it is going to be more noticeable than what's on the side of it. But I don't know.
I like on the side because I feel like it does a better job of highlighting the banner.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a good point. I mean, who knows if anybody even notices it anyways. I live, so like the last commission put the seahorse, the horse in front of my house, the chess piece. And I don't know if anybody looks at that.
I know the horse chess piece thing.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I'm glad you see it.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Any other questions? Are we ready for a vote?
I'm ready.
So I'm ready.
Okay. And I'm gonna switch
You
my
are
vote.
muted.
Sorry.
The host would like you to unmute your microphone. You can press *6 to unmute.
Technology.
It's being annoying.
Is that unmuted now?
I'm trying, but it's not.
Yeah, I can.
Can the commissioner vote by raising their hand too? If we did it in a way so that even if the commissioner is not speaking, if we say A or B.
Commissioner Jones, can you still hear us?
I can't hear anything anymore if anyone's talking. Just gonna check in.
Can you communicate with
Can you hear us?
them via chat?
He's trying to unmute it. This is kind of stuck.
We're also being quiet, in case you can still hear me, Selena. I'll text her, we're working on it.
Unfortunately, it's a phone call, so that doesn't, I believe it's our transmission and it got muted, so
Okay.
I can't unmute it.
Well, we do have a quorum, so we can proceed with the vote.
I can call her and have her on speakerphone, is that
Yeah, that's a
legit?
great,
Oh,
yeah,
that's a great
that would
idea.
work.
But I don't know if that would be picked up by the recorded.
No, but you could all hear her.
No, but the recording that's being done for records is not.
Yeah, but it would, if it records my voice, it would record her, because she would be on speaker.
Yeah.
Should be on the microphone.
She would be on my microphone.
Right, but I don't, what I'm saying is that I don't believe right now that Zoom is recording this video any longer with the
Oh,
voice.
it's not recording
It's
us.
not recording us either.
Yeah, it's,
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So we need
It's just
that.
video of us just chatting, no one can hear anything.
So we're in free talk
I mean,
mode.
is it a requirement that this be
Just
recorded?
watch out when that
Yes.
goes back on, you don't want to be caught in the middle of
Right, I mean,
something.
I understand that.
Context is everything sometimes.
Aren't we on like cable access TV right now or something?
You're on cable access TV right now.
Yeah, so I mean,
But it has to be, it's like, it has to be recorded for posterity.
okay.
Well, or public records
Or
laws.
public record law, yeah.
Not really posterity.
I shouldn't say
Yeah.
posterity. Public record law.
So I mean, what would we do? I mean, obviously the commission had meetings before there was Zoom, so what
We
did they do?
recorded it with a handheld tape recorder.
Okay.
And we had tapes.
That sounds fun.
Give us one moment.
all I can do is ask to unmute.
Good to see all your faces.
I know, different. How many people do we have on Zoom tonight? Just
We have
Mr.
two.
Hmm?
We have two people on Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, because we haven't heard from Mary yet.
No, right now it's only Commissioner Jones and Linda Orzen.
Oh, she did say she wasn't going to be here. Mary said that. Never mind.
Yeah, Mary did
Yes,
notify me.
yes.
So does anybody know any good Irish jokes?
Or an Irish song?
You are unmuted.
Danny Boy.
There we go.
I hear you.
Yay!
Thank you. Oh, my. Okay.
Juju.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, it wasn't you, it was everybody.
Yeah, it turned out it was on this end, I believe, so. All right,
So we're voting?
yes.
Commissioner Trees?
Okay, so we've brought the decision down to either the elevator, which we will call option A, or the Crescent Moons, which we'll call option B. So all in favor of option A, the elevators, raise their hand or say aye.
Can we do like instant runoff voting?
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Andrews,
I vote option B, the Crescent Moons.
Commissioner Jones,
Option B.
Commissioner Lugo,
Option A, the elevator.
Commissioner Planton,
Option B.
Commissioner Wilson,
Option B?
Commissioner Woodward.
Option B.
B is the winner.
Yay.
Do you want to have me convey any additional information? Like, would you prefer color, I don't know if artists
I
pick
can't
these
really do
things
that
or-
without, we would need so much more information and conversation to change or request anything. So I would say no. Is that, I mean,
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, leave it to the artist's discretion.
Yes, leave it to the artist. I agree with that too. Leave it to the artist's discretion, but if they could let us know what color the crescents will be, because these show silver bars, but they're actually black, like you said.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. That was fun. We did something.
yeah,
We did, we got something accomplished.
I think that's the first thing we've done. I mean, where we actually did something.
We know we did vote on our vision.
That's right. We did do that 2 years ago.
this somehow feels more real. I don't know.
Okay, so do you want to move on with the agenda then? Okay, next on the agenda is the staff update for the public mural application process.
So I just wanted to have a quick conversation with you all in person about the mural application that you're going to see next month. And this will be the first mural reviewed in the city, so I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask me questions, or Daniel included in the packet a memo from me where we tried to take apart the criterion that are relevant to your review of this. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to ask me questions or to talk through that. I think that the message that I was trying to get across is if you have to reflect on the content of the mural, then that's beyond the purview of your evaluation. And so, is it trademarked? That requires you to look into the content of the mural. Is it respectful? That requires you to look into the content of the mural. So that's why we were really careful about drafting the criteria the way we were, to focus on just how it is constructed, the materials. Your real expertise here is the longevity and durability of the artwork, right? Because we want this mural to last. And we don't have qualification to know whether or not the paint will last or the finish will fade, and what is the material it's attached to. And there's a criterion about not using 3D printing or other types of printing. And I'm sure there are all kinds of methods that artists use to sketch out murals, and where is the line between something computerized and something drawn. And so that's really where we're relying on you to weigh in. Things like, yeah, please.
Yes, thank you, Attorney Richer. I just want to say, I mean, just in defense of like our perspective as artists, that actually a lot of our training as artists is specifically around content. I understand that as a city body, we're not going to make a decision about that, but actually a lot of our expertise is in content. So I just wanted to say that.
Please, Commissioner Wilson.
So I think this is leading into some of the stuff that I will be talking about later, but now seems like an appropriate moment to bring it up. So myself and Commissioner Andrews were tasked with thinking about how us as a commission will make our decisions, recommendations for public art and murals, specifically as far as what is going to be our rubric for evaluation, with these legal things that you're talking about in mind, as far as their First Amendment right. I believe that, yeah, and not infringing on that. And then, so how do we evaluate? So in the rubric that Mary and I started, we started at a very intuitive place of where we as artists think about how we would consider the mural or the public art and how we would evaluate that. And then through that process, we started a rubric and then dove into definitions. And then in doing my more research just recently, actually before this, after many emails to Daniel and before this meeting, looking at and doing research of how other city or government entities go through the evaluation process and what standards and legal things do they go through. I came across the use of nuisance code as a way of thinking about the different elements of the murals or the public art and how that can be used to think about and articulate choices. And so I think the thing that Mary and I, and with the rest of the group as we start to get it together and then bring it to the group to talk about, will be looking at the Oregon City nuisance code that is already existing and things that we have already have in place, and then compare that with where us as artists and our gut and our instincts and our experience in the art world, how can that match up with the code that already exists? And so that's kind of where we're at right now, which is what I was going to get into a little later. But I included City of Beaverton has a whole big thing on how they talk about and evaluate and consider their mural and public art choices. So I guess just in sharing that with you, does that sound like we're kind of researching down the right path to make sure that our evaluation also matches with the existing code and use that as opposed to trying to think about the content and make choices based on that?
Well, I think that the inquiry when you're reviewing an application for a mural is a little bit different than when you're evaluating the art that goes on a banner pole, for example. The banner pole question is one that I think fits within the sort of rubric that you've identified and this whole idea of what is the Arts Commission's mission, and the Arts Commission's mission is to empower the city with the quality of art, right? And that, I think, is, something that only you can do. But the job of a mural evaluation is a judicial one, So you are the judge sitting there and saying, guilty, not guilty, guilty, not guilty, guilty, not guilty, based on specific criteria.
Right. Yes.
That's it.
Right, and I'm looking for those criteria. That's what I'm trying to work with Mary and then the rest of the group, is to really identify and lock down those criteria.
But those criteria are in the code in 1528090. That's the criteria. That's what's been adopted.
So that's just those two. It's like three. Page 17. If it's,
Just a question for clarification. So in this case, someone submits an application, they're just getting permission to put the mural up themselves. The city is not in any way putting funds towards that mural, but if we were to say, select a project and want to, judge criteria for submissions for that project, we would then have more leeway? Is that what you're saying?
Go ahead.
If the city puts money to a project, or first of all, if it's on city right of way, on public property, you have more leeway because you're representing the city, and it's the city's property.
Yeah.
So you have more leeway. But when it comes to a mural, it's a whole different kind of ballgame. And
I guess I'm thinking like a mural at a park that the city owns, right? So that would be on city property, we'd have more leeway in what we do. But if someone who owns a building in Oregon City wants to put a mural on it, all we can judge it on is this criteria on page 17.
Exactly.
Okay.
So who makes decisions about content then? Because when I look at murals in Oregon City right now, for instance, I don't see murals that reflect the history of the people who lived here for thousands of years before, before Oregon City became what it is now. I see mostly murals that hold up a certain kind of colonialist view of European expansionism. And I'm just wondering, like, who makes the decision? I mean, that's, to me,
A property owner makes that
the property
decision.
owner. Okay.
Just like if I own a Coca-Cola shop and I put a Coca-Cola sign on the outside of my building, as long as it complies with the city's sign code in terms of the size of the sign and the materials of the sign, we cannot regulate, any content. That's part of the limitation.
Okay.
So would I be correct in assuming that, so we have there's these 6 criteria, but the mural cannot also violate any of our other city codes? Would that be correct?
That is correct.
So then the nuisance code would be applicable to the murals?
But you are not charged with applying the nuisance code.
Right, I get that we are not enforcers of that, that is not our purview. But we also need this 6, if somebody came to us with a picture of children being murdered, there is nothing on here that says we don't want to pick that or have the authority to not pick that. So we need a tool to say, yes, flowers, no, violence happening to people. And so I guess I'm wondering, where's those criteria that we use?
You don't have those criteria.
So who does and how do we prevent that from happening?
But I think
The code is structured so that a property owner has to consent to have an easement put on their property in order to have a mural, and we're counting on that easement owner agreement to control people's behavior and act appropriately. And I understand if you don't agree with that, but that's what the First Amendment provides.
So
And
the first,
another safeguard they put into place is that everybody within, I think it's a 300 square foot area, they have to be notified of that mural going in. And if they have anything, they have to be able to have the opportunity to appeal that decision because they live in that area. So there were safeguards that were set up just for public opinion, for an owner to work with an artist, then to be able to have to submit that to the neighborhood. So those are like some of the safeguards to.
Well, who in the city would then uphold the nuisance law that would prevent, say, some gross, violent, offensive thing from being put up by the property owner that thinks it's a good idea? If it's not us, who in the city would enforce that ordinance?
I don't think, I mean, I don't have the nuisance code here, but it would be,
I almost printed it, but.
If having an offensive sign qualifies as a nuisance, it would be the city's code enforcement or the city's police department. That's who would enforce it. I mean, if you're talking about obscenity and,
Right.
nudity.
Well, I mean, there's more to it than that. Within our nuisance code, I should have printed it and brought it.
I can pull it up, but.
That has to do with the feelings of safety in your community, for one, is part of our code. The health and of the people is part of that code. There's things there that, anyway, I mean, that's good to know, but I guess my question is, if these are the criteria, I'm confused about what our role will be, because these seem like yes or no questions.
Your role, let me speak to that. In terms of the nuisance, it's most likely the planning department that will look
Okay.
at the nuisance issue. Now, in terms of your role is actually broader than simply murals.
Right.
your role is
Yeah, I
really
mean, I got
supporting the arts industry.
Yeah.
And so
I meant with the mural selection.
well, with the mural selection, this is it.
So, but one thing that
It's
we
not
can
perfect,
do,
but this is what it is.
but something that we can do, I mean, behind the scenes, we can like foster an environment where murals are being created. So we can work behind the scenes with property owners and make connections with them and with artists. And if there's certain kinds of images that we feel represent our community the best, we can like work with property owners and with artists and encourage them to submit their applications to the Arts Commission. So
But
that's a way around.
it
Is
sounds
that-
like,
Well,
Can I,
I mean, as private persons, can we do that?
sorry.
Go ahead.
So again, I want to, just with respect to this mural review task,
Yeah.
that's it.
yes.
You're like the judge, you know? The judge doesn't go around pointing out speeders to the police department, right? The judge's job is to be the judge, which is to not get involved in particular applications. It is expected that you have expertise in art, and it is expected that you work as an artist in this community. So you are respected for your opinion, and you are also a person who probably makes money or knows people who make money as artists in this community. So, and you may well be a muralist, right? Somebody who might file an application for a mural. Your job as a mural reviewer is to not have a either stand to benefit fiscally, right? You will not make money one way or another depending on how you review a mural application. And you don't feel so strongly because your best friend has filed an application for a mural that you couldn't possibly vote for or against your best friend because they're your best friend. So in other words, they call that bias. You are so in love with this particular building, this particular location, this, you know, you've always hated this particular artist. You've never thought their work was any good at all. That is bias. And in cases of where you stand to benefit financially or lose money financially, or you have a personal stake such that you cannot set it aside in order to review an application, those are the two circumstances where you have to step down. So back to your point, Commissioner Lugo, about encouraging artists to submit applications. You absolutely should. Should you encourage participation in the mural program? Absolutely you should, but you should do it really generally. And not say, I know you are thinking about doing a mural, and if you do X, Y, and Z, we'll approve it, right? Because that is not what a judge, you know, evaluates applications as they receive them. So if you want to give advice to a particular mural applicant, that's okay, but don't participate as a reviewer of that particular proposal, right? Because you have sort of stepped outside of your, what we call quasi-judicial role, which is you're sitting as a judge evaluating a proposal against the adopted criteria.
Could I also just clarify that because I'm in the middle of doing a brand new mural with an artist from the Confederated Tribes and with the owner of the White Rabbit. So I have told them the content is totally between owner and artist. I received a grant from it through the Three Rivers Artists Guild, and I said I can manage the project for you. I can take care of all the paperwork. Everything will go through the mural. But I was going to ask tonight, when it comes to the point where it's brought before the Art Commission, should I abstain from voting on that?
I think, from what you've told me, I think the answer is yes.
Okay.
But we can talk further if you want to, but I think you've got enough people here to make a quorum that if you're, you know, if you do step down, you'll still have enough people to make a decision.
So I will do that. And just off the point, but back to the point that Tammy Jo brought up, if you were using the nuisance code, can we somehow attach that to the mural
Well, it sounds like we
process?
can't use the nuisance code, so it's not really relevant anymore.
So what if I wanted to see a mural in Oregon City of a same-sex couple holding hands? and I wanted to see a mural of that, something that I've never seen represented in my community. And I went to the queer community, which I have lots and lots of connections with up in Portland, and said, hey, it would be great if some of you muralists thought about coming down to Oregon City and submitting an application to show same-sex couples holding hands as part of a backdrop for Oregon City, which represents the reality that there are lots of same-sex couples that live in our community. Would I be violating any rules by encouraging that?
I think that if the Portland community filed an application and it came before the Arts Commission, I would, if you asked me this question and it was before the commission, I probably would encourage you to not participate in the evaluation, because you are directly sort of responsible for that mural application getting filed. I'm not saying, I think it's a wonderful idea. And again, I don't think we weigh in on content. I think it would be great for, all kinds of diverse messages to be shared in Oregon City through murals. But I just want to be careful. I try to be really careful about the perception, right? This job of mural reviewer, right, could be controversial, right? And I want this commission to be sort of above rebuke. And, look, the applications come to us, we review them against the criteria, and if they meet the criteria, they get approved. The message is not our purview. And having done land use applications with the planning department and historic applications with the Historic Review Board for 20-some years like I have, the most successful boards are boards that separate their sort of commissioner hat reviewing job from their personal life. And if you can keep those separate, that is, and that doesn't mean you don't advocate for art. Preservationists are out advocating for historic preservation all the time. But, preservationists then say, I encouraged these folks to file an application, or I encouraged them to appeal, or I encouraged them to do this, so I won't vote. And there's nothing wrong with stepping down from a vote. There's, recusing yourself is sometimes the, bolder thing to do.
I have a couple of questions. So based on this criteria, we would not even need to see an image of the final mural before. We would just need to know the materials being made out of to judge it. Is that, or are we going to see an image of it?
You'll see the image of it. You'll
Okay.
see everything that's connected to it, but your thinking, like you have to view yourself as a judge. And your thinking has to be relegated to what you see before you in terms of these 6 points here.
In some ways, it's almost not what we see. I think I understand now.
Exactly.
I think
Thank you.
the problem is it's going against what we feel as artists and what we feel our skills and assets are as commissioners. But I understand what you're saying, and I think I'm getting it. It just feels counterintuitive, I think, to myself and to probably the rest of us to evaluate art in such a
Sterile way.
yes, and that we're not really evaluating it at all. We're just checking the boxes. And it, like you were saying, it almost doesn't even, I think seeing it will actually make it harder for us.
Yeah.
Because we will have that reaction as opposed to evaluating these criteria, saying it fits yes or no. And so it'll be a challenge. And I think it's something we will have to, yes, be aware of.
Attorney
As
Richter,
commissioners.
I just want to just use this really short story as an example of what I think that we're both speaking about here. There was a book written by John Berger in the 1970s. It was called Ways of Seeing. And it's about how what we see is completely informed by how we're trained to see things.
Yes.
And it's a book about deconstructing Western art and looking at what Western art is in the context of European history. And it's a great book. I mean, it's a really great book for any artist. I mean, almost every art school I know has a copy of this book. And what you see is profoundly implicated in how you see. So like when I look at what I see of art in Oregon City, it reflects a certain kind of bias. I mean, overwhelmingly it does. And I'm not here to try to bring a political agenda to the Arts Commission, but I do think that how we see and what we see really matters. And a lot of our training as artists is about how we process and what we do with images and what those images mean. So what's hidden and what's not seen. So I mean, so much of art is about that, and that's actually a lot of our expertise. And I just want to, really uphold that because that's actually what we know so well, in addition to materiality. That's all I'll say. Sorry.
So another question I have is, the ordinance now states that people within 300 feet or 300 yards have to be notified. Is there a process for them to step in and say, we don't want this? And what is that process? Can someone tell me what that would be? Or do they just get notified and that's all they can do is be notified?
No,
You can speak to it.
I'm sorry, it's in the guidelines. You have online, and also it's on the website also, but you'll see this is the guidelines for the program. And so there's an appeal process.
Okay.
And if there's individuals within that 300 area, 300 square feet area, and they would come here, they can state their objection.
Sorry, 300 square feet?
300, what is it, 300, yes, 300, I think it's 300.
That's like
No, it's not 300
the
square
size of
feet.
this, less than the size of this room.
It's not 300 square
That's
feet, it's 300,
You'll have to be standing next to the building.
I think it's 300,
300 feet, within 300 feet of the
Yeah, 3
proposed
feet.
mural
Okay.
location.
yeah, 300
Is what
feet.
the code says.
That's really close.
So it's 300 feet. And so therefore, now if they did not come, and they heard about it, and then they want to come again, then you could not hear them because they were not here initially to make their complaint based on their initial complaint.
What's the window for appeals?
7 days, well, no, 14 days.
14 days.
And there's
But
a
it's
fee
not,
involved also.
participation isn't gonna be limited just to people within 300 feet. Anybody who hears about, your commission agenda will be posted online, I'm assuming. And so anybody who reviews the agenda can come to the hearing and testify.
So, sorry, they're gonna appeal to us if they
They're
haven't.
gonna come here for the first hearing and they're gonna appeal
Okay.
to you. If they're unhappy, they're gonna appeal the decision to the city commission.
Okay.
I think for me, that's where it starts to get sticky because they'll come to us with their feelings about the content. And then they will give us that feedback and we will have nothing to, we check the boxes and say, sorry. Even though you are sharing your concerns, we have no power or authority to even discuss that.
But I
Which will
think that
be-
I think the idea, in addition to you, it's about a public forum and about the
Okay.
muralist hearing from a room full of people that they don't like this and that they are not doing something that is consistent with the value. So it's not just you as decision makers solving this problem, but it is part of a public conversation.
Yeah.
And you are just providing the forum for that.
Or the vehicle for the conversation.
Better way to say it.
So
Hopefully
I did have one comment to kind of maybe add to this as well, because I think you guys are touching on one of the most key important parts. You guys are artists. I'm not. And as a person, I look at the application and I look is it being completed properly? But I cannot say that the artwork that is being done is using materials that would be able to withstand weather. I wouldn't be able to tell you that it has the necessary components of what do you put on an outdoor mural that is going to protect it from vandalism. I don't have those tools to be able to to do that, whereas you might have, and I'm only gonna say might because not everyone has the same, as my daughter is an artist, she plays in different things than her friends play in for art, mediums. And so that's where, in the sense of checking the boxes is not so much in this case because I'm doing the checkbox. Oh yeah, this field is filled in, this field is complete. This one is, they filed a fee, they've done all of that. That's my part, and then I make a staff report to you guys saying, yes, I'm making a recommendation or I'm holding off because this recommendation doesn't have everything complete.
Right.
And then I pass it on to you guys to then now look at not the content of the art, but is the art doable within the elements that are available? Does that maybe help you understand a little bit differently on what we're looking for?
I think I understand it. I don't know about my fellow commissioners. It just doesn't feel nice. If that's the best
Yes.
word I can
Well, it
say.
doesn't feel like it's
It doesn't
taking
feel
advantage
like the totality of our skills and knowledge are
Exactly,
being utilized to make the
yeah.
decision. It feels like for us, like we're just checking boxes and not truly making a choice.
And the interesting thing about this commission is that, as I said earlier, your mission is actually broader than actually a mural or
Yeah.
any one piece of art. It's actually you're commissioned to sort of support the industry, the art industry, and to give it a voice.
So, yeah, we can, and I'm maybe just thinking about timing of this, we can address all of our concerns in all the other places we have influence outside of just this one mural program. That's not just the only program we can deal with. So I think keeping what you've worked on is great, and we want to keep going that route with anything else projects we pick in the future. Yeah, I think in terms of this, this is what it is. So we can't really change it at this point. It's what I'm understanding.
We've run out of time on this subject. Would you like to extend the time to continue on?
Can I ask one quick question that'll be, I'm hoping it'll be a short yes or no sentence answer. For public art as opposed to mural art, which I know is a bit different, will we have different or more criteria that we will be considering? On a public art, as it like sculptural, structural pieces as opposed to murals?
Oh, on public art, yes, because the property belongs to the city.
Okay.
And so
Some of the things we were thinking about for the mural could then be applied to public art, and we could continue but thinking from that aspect.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Is everybody comfortable moving on?
Good, great
The
conversation.
agenda?
Thank
Yes,
you so
yeah,
much.
Great discussion. And thank you, Carrie, for all
Sure,
your
if
input.
you have any specific questions for me, reach out to James and we can talk.
Okay, next on our agenda is the updating of the strategic plan. Thank you, Commissioner Canton, for all you've done, and I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you. So we had completed an initial introduction and overview of the strategic plan. I've sent it to Jen and Therese to review and give feedback on. I've gotten some feedback on already. I'm now working on the first section of the strategic plan, which is basically talking about public art and its importance to communities for various reasons. So my goal is that I'll have that and possibly section 2 done by the April meeting, and have feedback already addressed again, and be able to provide it to the other commissioners to start looking at and reviewing. I guess one question is, in the plan itself, we had kind of this discovery period where we wanted to start talking to other third parties who we will be dealing with and hopefully we engage with as we create this strategic plan, as well as the community in general, public feedback. And I wanted to start talking about how do we go about getting there with those two groups. getting their feedback, getting their input in what we should be considering when we start to get back to establishing our goals for this plan. So
What are those two groups?
the public, so just general public of Oregon City, as well as third-party organizations that are either, you know, in the artistic, creative economy, or the, you know, it could be just other public groups, other commissions that, Planning Commission or the 2040, the people who've been leading that. It could be, you know, a number of different kinds of groups, but people who have kind of their own objectives and goals and wanting to engage with them on, you know, where are the gaps, what's missing, how can we as a commission better serve them?
I think one of the things that we discussed, but I don't think we ever carried through, because there's so much on our agenda, so much we're trying to do, but it was to have a speaker come in for 5 minutes every single meeting to get input. And if we could start that, actually, I think our decision was to start with OC 2040, so we could find out what the vision of the city was. And then there was a list, I think I had maybe, 20, 30 agencies that were art related, that we could start to go through that and have somebody come in. So if we could actually start that on the agenda, I think it'll help with the strategic plan to get input from the community.
And if it helps, I can propose, it might be best to just give them a couple questions or statements to respond to when they come in, and that will kind of help guide the conversation. It could expand beyond those, but at least something to give them some structure to solidify their comments around.
And do you want to take ownership of that?
I can draft a few and just send them out and to Daniel, and Daniel can, you know, share them with people. We can get those.
Okay. And are we ready for the next meeting to have a guest speaker come in for 5 minutes? Are we ready for that yet? I know there's so much we're trying to
It
accomplish.
seems like 5 minutes isn't enough time.
It isn't.
Can we
Maybe 10,
get, yeah.
but that'll take away from all of the things we're trying to do. So are we ready for that?
Well, to recap, next week, or not next week. No, it feels like it's gonna happen next week. Next month, we're gonna talk about the mural applications. Are there several that are pending, or?
At the moment, there's only one.
Okay, so we probably won't spend the whole meeting talking about that, question mark?
Yeah.
I think we should.
Another option is if we had like key ones we wanted to talk to, like 2040 is, I think, one of those key ones, given the fact that their input on the entire strategy of the city is important. But there might be some other ones where if we have the structure to talk to them, the questions already posed, we could break off into smaller, like 2 people groups and talk with them and then report back in our own meeting what you know, some of the feedback was. And that might be a quicker way to get through more of them.
I mean, personally, I think that inviting a group down here every meeting is a great way of keeping this group relevant too, and giving us something to feed on, because I think that we really need regular input. Like, there's nobody here right now, and it's be nice to have somebody besides city people, you know, come in and talk to us. So I think if we could do that every month, that would be great. And we could tell them, you're going to be on television.
Yeah.
Or if I could, what you could also do, because it's all about marketing, getting the word out. And what you could do is, at the appropriate point, have them come in as groups. Several of them come in as groups. You can designate a point in time in your meeting, or maybe at the whole meeting. You can hear from one group behind the other, discuss their points of view. And that way you can sort of it's fresh, you get it's a great discussion where you have numbers of people in this room. They're all stepping forward to the podium one at a time and taking a few minutes to express their point of view on the 2 questions and other questions. And then the next one comes up. You can just basically have a conversation with the community.
As long as we keep that in our, you know, in our pocket as something that we can continuously draw from, I think it'll really help us with our work.
Would the group be willing to have a special meeting, like we did our special retreat? Have one special meeting where we send out an invitation to maybe, what do we have, an hour and a half? So maybe to 6 different groups and say, would you like to, we're inviting you for a 10-minute presentation. Would people be willing to sacrifice that time?
I'd rather do it the way you first talked about it, where you have like one group a month. Because taking in 6 different groups at once is like, I don't know, I'd rather hear from just one group and have a chance to really think about what they have to say, and then the next month hear from somebody else.
The drawback of that is timeline. So if we're trying to get this plan done this year, by the time you get through the discovery phase of talking with everyone, if you have a list of 20, 30 organizations, which we want to hear from as many people as possible, you're now 3 years into this before you're getting a strategic plan out. And that's the one drawback. I think we'd have to do at least multiple in a meeting, or do special meetings to try and accommodate those, all those groups. Because I don't want to miss someone because we were trying to rush.
Well, that's true, but I mean, having a group, like having groups continuously come in over time keeps the commission more relevant, I think, to the community. And also, I mean, my own experience is that basically nobody pays any attention to strategic plans. So, I mean, people put a lot of work into them and then they kind of just stick them in the file cabinet. So, I mean, but having conversations, having ongoing conversations with community organizations is a way of keeping this group incredibly relevant.
I feel one feeds the other as well. And so I feel like we need those community conversations to feed the development and growth and appropriateness of our strategic plan to reflect our community.
Yeah, and the other group, the general public, so we talked in the past about a survey and getting that going, but I don't know if people have other ideas.
No, it's not a different idea. I was waiting for the survey conversation to come up. So I learned recently that the huge, I don't remember if it's national or just Oregon, I think it's actually the National Arts Arts and Culture Economic Survey is happening this year, and they will be going out to all of Oregon and all of the counties and all of us. They're going to be hitting us hard in May. And so we have to be careful not to survey at the same time as that, because that survey is providing vital information to us and our economy. And so supporting them would be supporting us. And if we hit people with two arts and culture surveys at once, we'll be shooting ourselves in the foot. And also this survey is so inclusive, so it'll include Clackamas County, but then depending on how we support it, it can also get granular to Oregon City based on the feedback that they receive. And so I think it'll be a really great tool for our strategic plan, the data that is collected in comparison with the state, our county, and potentially our city. But then also,
Do you know the timeline of when they expect to publish results?
That's the sad part. So the survey goes out in May, and the results are published the following May.
Yeah.
That's the
drawback.
it puts a thing in our plans of wanting to get our strategic plan completed, but we also don't want to interfere with this national process of documenting the arts ecology that they are going to be doing. That is going to influence us, our arts and funding and all of that.
I keep going back to the idea, and I appreciate your input of not having everybody at once, but do events all the time. And I think the idea of doing an invitation, or maybe you have appetizers and you do it almost like a event that you invite the art community in, and before they come, you say, we want you to answer these 5 questions or be ready when you come. We will be giving a very short presentation on the Art Commission, but the reason for this event is to be able to get information from you. And it would be like a one-time, easy way to at least build a foundation of what does the community see, what do they want from an Art Commission.
Yeah, and I would say to Emma's point, we wouldn't say okay, that's the only time you can talk to us. Come back, bring back more ideas. Let's keep the engagement going forward. But just to work on the strategic plan and to set our goals, we want to have as much input as possible. And it's going to seem, I think, a little rushed, but the more we can absorb now, better it's going to be for us making decisions down the road.
The
I
other
just-
thing we can do also is I'm sorry, give that floor to you.
Okay, I think, the last Arts Commission kind of like shriveled up and died after a while, and I think that, I really want to avoid this Arts Commission doing the same thing, and I feel like the only way to really do that is to continuously stay engaged with the community, because it's like, why are we here if we're not, if we're just all talking to ourselves and we're not really doing much of anything. I want us to continue to stay relevant and engaged with the community in whatever way we need to do to actually make art more relevant here in Oregon City. And that means mostly listening to people outside of ourselves, like communicate with us about what they want and how we can help facilitate that.
And along with that too, there's a lot of events coming up. What if we were to ask for a booth at each of those events as the Art Commission with questionnaires? Or I always go back to the Willamette Falls project where they had big whiteboards put up and people could put stickies up and they got as much community interaction as they possibly could get for what do you see as the Willamette project. We could do that with the Art Commission. There's the May Spring Fling coming up at the of an art event up at the Stony Creek Golf Course. There's the OC FOTA coming up. There's the First City Celebration coming up in June. There's the Arch Bridge celebration. So event after event in Oregon City, and we could have a presence there. And so people after like the fifth time of seeing, oh, there's the Art Commission. I saw them at the other thing. I'm going to write down what I would like to see the Art Commission do.
Great. Well, let's do. What do we need? So if we're gonna have a booth, what's gonna be at our booth?
We'd have to have pamphlets done. We'd have a big whiteboard with stickies. That's all they did for that Willamette View project. You would go in, they'd give you a sticky and say, write down what you want to see, and then they took all that data of this is what the community wants. But the main thing it did is it brought them into the community's view. The community saw them all the time and got excited about the project.
So I'm hearing two things at the same time, and I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think there's some important things that we need to keep in mind as far as our capacity as commissioners. But I think I'm hearing we really want community engagement and to stay engaged with the community and feel accessible to them. And I 100% agree with that. But then I also hear that we need hard data about our community that we can use to create our strategic plan. And we need it sooner rather than later so that we can move forward with our goals as a commission. And in thinking of those two things, I think with the strategic plan, we need to think of what's the best way to gather the data that we actually need, as opposed to trying to wrap it around what is the best way to engage with our community so that we feel vital and we feel seen and they feel like they can see us. I feel like those are two really important things that don't necessarily have to be smushed together.
I agree. So in terms of next steps with the discovery phase, I guess, do we want to just move forward with inviting 2-3 organizations to the next meeting, doing maybe a half an hour, 10 minutes each, just to get started, and we can provide the questions that we'd want them to try to address in their presentation, and then maybe dedicate some time in the next agenda to community engagement and what do we want to think about there? Because we could do the booth options, there's probably several other options out there that we can look at doing, so.
And if I'm walking up to a booth somewhere, I want to know what you can do for me too, So I think that it's that balancing of saying, yeah, we want to hear from you and what's important. But if I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to have a festival, how can you help me? And we don't have an answer to that, then what is the input really doing? Is it causing further confusion and frustration? So I want to make sure that we're not just engaging with people for the sake of engaging, because that also can just put up further like roadblocks. So I just want to be mindful of letting people know what we can offer them as a commission. And right now, one of the ways we can do that is the mural application. So we can point to that, and we can, if there is a structure for feedback, we could point to that, like a survey that's open for 3-6 months, however long we want to, like, I just want to be mindful of those. It gets exciting to think about letting people like come in the door and talk to us, but I would never show up to a meeting where I was like, I don't know why I'm like, what am I supposed to talk to you about? I think the leading questions will be really helpful. So
But
people
I
have
think
some
that's
guidance.
where we go back to giving them, saying, these are the questions we would like to ask you. And it goes back to, and I totally agree with you, is making it relevant, is that they know this is what we can offer. What kind of organization, how could we support you as an art commission in your goals? As an organization, what are your goals? How would we be able to support you as a commission? If they can think about that before they come, so that they do have feedback. And we could even say, we're at the beginning stages of forming the art commission, trying to evaluate what we can do for the community. What is your organization about? How do you feel we could support you? What are some of the things you need?
People always need money and
Yep.
time and support. I mean, we can
Space.
answer some of those questions.
Right.
So,
And we can even say, not that we'll have answers for you that night, but those are the things we'll take into consideration as we form our own procedures.
I mean, has anyone, the new, there was a story in the press today about the new, the new, what is it downtown, the courthouse. It's gonna be $186 million courthouse. I mean, would the Arts Commission possibly have some sort of role in trying to promote, art as part of the design for the new courthouse?
Is that Clackamas County?
Yeah.
Is there a percent for the arts on?
I don't know if there's
I think
percent for the
it's
arts, but it's gonna be Clackamas County Courthouse, so maybe we could help advise,
But I'm saying it's county, it wouldn't be Oregon City, so we wouldn't necessarily get a say in that.
maybe not.
But we could talk, again, we could talk to the Clackamas County Commissioners and be like, is there something way we can partner with you on that project to do some art around the building when you're doing your construction? I mean, I think that's.
You can always send a letter as a commission, signed by the chair, asking for input and a discussion, and then you can have a joint meeting of the Arts Commission of Oregon City and whomever, and the county commissioners. Something like that. But to answer Jen's first question, keep in mind, the first thing that you're, as a quasi-judicial body, you're giving people voice and giving them a forum to speak. Unless you develop programs to help the art industry, that is the main thing that you provide people, a voice to sort of to come in and have a discussion about the arts. And if they're part of a larger kind of industry effort, then that's something that you might want to look at. But it may not be appropriate to fund one entity, one person, because you're not representing. You're a quasi-judicial group. You're not a service entity per se.
Yeah, I totally hear that. I'm more thinking like, you know, how to get information out to folks about what exists and like how we can be a hub for that information and advocate for like all of the amazing things that are happening that people just don't like have that center of information. If that's a goal, which I think we did talk about. So
One other thing I wanted to maybe put on the next agenda is how do we get started on identifying maybe our first public arts project and getting the grants? Is it something easier to have a proposal and then go get the grants? Or are there grants out there that you could just apply for, knowing that once we get the funding, we would then work on the proposal? Like, just get our process in order and how we would move through that and move forward with, some sort of project. Because I don't, again, the strategic plan is always constant on my mind, but I don't want it to delay anything else that we're trying to do as well. So maybe have some time to talk about that.
Can the Arts Commission itself apply for grants? I mean, we're,
Oh, I wasn't saying us apply, but I'm saying the city apply. We could ask the city to apply for a grant, say from the Oregon Arts Commission, correct?
Well, you have your own treasury.
I know we do, but I'm saying if we wanted, we could spend through that treasury pretty quickly on an arts project or just a couple arts projects. If we wanted, if we wanted to do, pick a project, identify it, what the cost would be, and then go find the funding for it, depending on what it would cost, then how do we start that process?
Well, okay. So if you are, we have to be a little careful about this one because keep in mind, you are an advisory body of the city commission. And you're a quasi judicial body. So it's best generally to encourage others to develop projects through your voice, through your support, through your voice, through your encouragement of people to do projects. The funding that you have can be used to elevate that voice, that industry. I don't know if you want to get into the business of doing projects.
No, I guess that's part of my question is, okay, so now it sounds like we want to some way create incentives for people to deliver proposals to us so that we can evaluate those and determine if we want to provide our own treasury for that or maybe find a grant for the.
Are you talking about public art specifically? Are you talking about?
Yeah. So how do we encourage people, back to the engagement question, how do we encourage people to reach out to us and say, hey, I have a proposal, or, if projects going on in this area, how do we make sure we know about those and see if they are interested in working with us on additional, public arts elements of that project? So
It's usually through an RFP process.
okay.
So yeah, I think we are talking about a public art program at this point,
Yeah.
not some other festival.
Correct.
Right. So if you wanted to support a particular, if there was an area in the city that's publicly owned by the city, and you wanted to see a piece of art there, then you would put out an RFP to accept proposals for that particular area.
Do we have to get sign off from anyone else before we put that RFP out? I mean, would it go to the council to?
we would need permission from whatever
Department?
city. Yeah.
Yes, first of all, you would have to, it's not a long process, but obviously you have to identify, staff could all help you identify the area you want to, and then we would, say it's on a park, obviously, if it's the park and recreation department will have to give permission for you to do that. And if they give, if the commission, I guess they call it PRAC, the Parks and Recreation Commission, then they say, well, we support that. And then the department, the Parks and Rec Department supports that. And the city commission itself supports that. Then you have permission to go forward.
Okay.
And as far as funding for a art, for a public art piece like that, if it went beyond the budget that we have, what would be the process for us to receive funding? I don't even know what the words would be. Acquire the appropriate funding for our proposed project?
Well, I'm hoping that it wouldn't go beyond, I mean, you have to be careful, judicious, you have to be judicious in terms of how you spend and frugal in terms of how you spend money. But if it goes beyond the project, you can also invite contributions from donors. You have that ability to
We can
invite.
also request the city commission allocate funding.
Yes, you can do that too.
You know, that the city budget does have earmarks for certain items and.
Yeah.
And I know we brought it up before, but when is the next city budget? When could we start to ask the city, can you put in a line
It's a
item for the
biennial,
arts?
yeah, it's a biennial budget, so the next budget review period starts in 2023, I believe.
Correct.
Okay, next year. So maybe we would be ready by then in order to have like funds constantly coming in.
Yeah.
So that, then we could start events and projects and RFPs
Well-
because we'd have the funding for it.
Or just RFPs, but yeah.
But of course, you have your strategic plan, so your strategic plan could speak to what you want to do. And it helps guide your thinking so that you're not engaged in, the benefit of a strategic plan is help you with guiding your thinking so that you're not doing things in a helter-skelter way. That's the benefit of it. But it's totally up to you how you want to proceed. I'm just here to help you acquire what you want to do.
As far as on the agenda for the strategic plan, are we ready at this point to go to the last item? Any other discussion? Are you clear, Commissioner Clinton, on what you need and how to proceed?
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Okay, so the last one is a discussion on appropriate use of Art Commission funds. I don't-
We've been
Just as, we have discussed it. And then just as an example, I was approached because I have people that know that I'm part of the Art Commission and they were from OC Photo that said, would the commission have funding? I said, I have to be very, very careful. I said, all I can do is ask the commission if that is a possibility. So I can't show any favoritism. I can't give out any information without first checking in with the Art Commission. So it was something that when I saw this on the agenda, I was like, perfect, it'd be a good time to discuss that. That's a possibility to give them some funding.
Would it in some way, I think we're tasked with promoting the arts generally in Oregon City, so would something like that, would it promote the arts or would it just be going to?
Right, the organization is a 501c3. It's the lowest booth fees of any festival out there, never put on to make money. Any money that is made always goes back to the budget for next year's art festival. It tries to bring in every form of art, performance art, food, of course, every kind of 2D and 3D art that you can think of. So it tries to incorporate all of the arts into a 2-day weekend. And they always, they're running late on the planning this year. It's the first year. I backed off and said, I've done it for 4 years. I can't do it anymore. But they're looking for funding, for sponsors, for grants, and they're running late on it. But that was the question. I said, all I can do is bring it up to the commission.
Personally, I think it's way too soon. I think we need to figure out a budget, and then even once we get there, we have to figure out an evaluation process of how do we decide who we are contributing money to, so it is a fair and transparent process that is not just who in the community heard about it. It's just too soon, in my view.
Yeah, I agree that there has to be some kind of criteria that we have set up for allocating funds, and that has to be like a consensus process.
And
that we vote
transparent
on.
and publicly available.
Yeah.
until then, I feel like it's too soon for us to be giving out money to anyone.
And if that is a pressing need, then does that move up further in our list of like, we've got to figure out a process like ASAP so that we can
Maybe.
respond to people?
I know I did send out, I don't know if it went, and, because I would just send it out to, anyway, I did send out a application process that West Lynn had put in place for their funding. I don't know if everybody received that. I just sent it out 2 months, and it was
Was
just
that to
before
me?
you came on. I think
Oh.
it was just before you
Okay,
came on.
because I was like, why
Yeah,
haven't we
I don't know
gotten
what it is.
anything?
So maybe I'll find that again. It was a good base plan. And because I've been thinking about this a lot, I totally agree. How do you make it as fair as possible? And how do we go about announcing it? Do we go through the newspapers? Do we go through the city site? How do people know that the Art Commission has funding and we're looking for applicants? How does that go out?
So my understanding is that we have $20,000, but the money that we have is to promote the arts generally in the community. So like, at least my understanding is it wouldn't be money that we give to the Three Rivers Art Festival, but maybe it would be like a brochure that says, here's your Oregon City Arts Guide for 2023. And it has like all of these wonderful arts things you can get engaged in, or it's promoting like the arts industry or something, like somehow it has to kind of promote the city too.
Right.
At least that's my understanding of it. I don't know.
Yeah, you have to be careful about looking like you're a garden club and giving out pieces of chunks of cash to different organizations that you know about that benefits that organization only. The funding that you have is to promote the arts industry. So that means that if there is a festival that includes different types of organizations and under one umbrella, like 20, or I'm just using as an example, 5 or 6 or 7 different organizations that have come together to promote the arts in Oregon City, that's maybe something you want to be a part of. But I think you'd be really hard pressed really to sort of look at one entity or one artist and say, and that person comes to you and say, I need money, and then you give it to them. That's not the appropriate use of money.
So maybe we put on the agenda for our next meeting to have this discussion that we're having now, but allow time for it and thought and move it up so that we can be available to things in our community that we can lay out those criteria and decide if we want to set a small portion of our budget, since we don't really know our full spending yet. We need to keep it,
Okay, so we'll want to table it for next meeting and have that on the agenda.
Now, you keep in mind, I think your next meeting is you reviewing a mural, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to then you'll do that, just have that discussion? Is there something else that you?
The
talked about the
discovery, 2 or 3 organizations coming in and presenting, and I was saying 30 minutes for that.
Okay.
So if the mural, if it's a yes, no question, so you just had to answer, then hopefully it won't take too long, but I don't know.
I just
If
want to make
there's
sure what the agenda was so that
comments.
we can get it right, that's all.
Right now, those are the key ones. And then we also have a discussion to finish related to not the goals, it's
the vision.
The strategic plan?
no. I know, this is what happens when you start throwing these. I will get back to you on it. It is something, we removed the finance part of it from
The bylaws.
The bylaws,
So there's
thank
the
you.
discrepancy between the ordinance and the bylaws.
Right, we need to finish that conversation, which was pushed off until April.
Yeah. I think we put it on the agenda if we get to it in priority order. But it's 8:45 right now.
It is.
I would encourage us to at least invite one organization in for 10 minutes, just because I think that in the long run, we'll get fed so much more by having different community groups come in and talk to us about what their priorities are. So
I'm
even
all
if
right
it's
with
just 10
that.
minutes.
not against that idea.
And are we ready for next meeting to do that? Are you comfortable if we invite a representative from OC 2040 and a representative from the Three Rivers Artists Guild? People comfortable with that to start off with?
No objection from me.
No objection.
I'll take the responsibility of contacting each of the, or.
Commissioner Jones just gave us the thumbs up.
Okay. And Dan, do you want to take care of
can make the
contacting them?
invite.
Do you want me to contact them? How would you like to proceed?
Well, I can do that.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
Okay, good. All right, sounds good. Okay, so I want to say one thing. We have all worked with groups. This group is phenomenal. I just want to say thank
Can I
you.
just apologize to
Thank
everybody
you.
for
Thank
just-
you.
Commissioner Jones is clapping.
And you guys are great. Thank you so much for everything that everybody's done. I know we're all trying to get there faster than we can, and we just have to take it slowly. But everybody is just great. Thank you. And with
Carry
that,
a beer someday.
yes. And any other
When we don't break
discussions?
code.
Any other good for the what's the phrase, good for the meeting? What's the, you know what I mean? Any other discussions or comments before we end?
Actually, one thought. Can we add the downtown business association to our list of the three? Because with the new mural program, we want to make sure that we are making sure they're aware of it and that they're spreading the word to all of their businesses down there and their owners.
Let me make sure I confirm this. So OC 2040, DOCA, in that case, Downtown Oregon City Association. And then, sorry, for some reason I missed the.
Three Rivers Artists
Thank
Guild.
you.
Would it, don't be mad at me, Trish, but is it possible Three Rivers could wait till the following meeting so that we're not,
Sure.
unless there's something pressing on their agenda that we need to?
I just know that they approached me for funding, which isn't till August. Funding is until August, so I just said we don't have our procedures down yet. All I can tell you is I'll bring it to the commission.
I mean, it sounds like probably we're not gonna be able to give them money because,
But we could help them get the word out that they need
yeah,
funding.
exactly. Yeah,
So
we can
Daniel, can you make note three
We
Rivers
could
for the
amplify
one
their
after?
voice.
Yes,
Okay.
I can add
Can we
that.
get that?
Can we
Thank you.
amplify their
The May,
voice?
the
No,
May meeting.
we can't do that? So how
gonna
are we
put it on the
supporting
card.
people if you're not getting the word out about
Well-
what they're doing?
Well, so, I mean.
That's actually kind of my role. is-
Okay.
As the tourism person is that my goal is when an event is put in my lap to say that something's happening in Oregon City, it's going to be my job then as the tourism person to make sure that those are promoted whatever way we can find out, whether it be working with the Travel Oregon, getting it promoted through them, through Oregon's Mount Hood Territory, which is the regional one, connecting with Clackamas County Arts Alliance, whatever organizations, as well as if I can get them into the papers, that's kind of my push to do them. Unfortunately, I have a very limited list right now of events, and so if you guys have anything, those are huge benefits for us as a tourism organization.
We're going to be handing out your number a lot.
And you know what? I brought you guys presents. I've got cards, so you guys can pass them out all you want.
There's a bunch of events coming up, so that's
Yes,
exciting.
and I do have a few of those, so I wrote them down as you were saying them.
But think of yourself like the city commission itself. It would be awkward for the city commission to promote an event on behalf of all the citizens in this city. That would be highly awkward because they are definitely a governing body. So it would be awkward for you too.
The only thing I would add to that, though, is that in all those strategic plans that you attached of all the different cities, almost every city, especially the cities that are very art-focused, that's one of their main goals is to support art events in their city. That's one of their main things. So I think that's important for the Art Commission.
Just to figure out the right approach for what works for us as a commission
Yeah.
and the city
And
and
for fairness.
our community, yes. Right now, I'm gonna pass it off to Dan.
Got it.
And with that, let's end the meeting. It is 8:52.